Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Keeping It Real. I have two very, very important guests with me today. They're really both important to the street and club dance community in here in Alberta. And I'm excited to have you guys. Welcome to the show.
Thanks
you,
for
Rico.
having us, Rico.
How are you guys doing? How you doing?
Great, man.
No complaints.
No complaints.
Yeah.
No complaints. I guess, can you guys share a little bit about how you got into hip hop, and then how you got into street and club dance styles and your communities?
Yeah,
You
sure.
guys share with me that?
Go ahead, Lukas.
I'm gonna take it first. Okay, we got time.
Oh, that time.
I got started back in 2001 after I moved to Edmonton from Montreal, and so I was just a baseball player for a real long time. I did the sports thing, and I never did the dance thing. I never got into any sort of dance environment. I used to truthfully make fun of dancers a lot, because in our school, if you didn't do sports, you weren't cool. That was it. And if you danced, you weren't cool. Boys did not dance. That was sort of the stigma that surrounded my growing up. So yeah, I left at 17 to move to Edmonton to pursue a baseball scholarship and to see if I could turn that into something, because there were summer camps going on. And unfortunately, that didn't pan out so well, because I ended up getting injured, and then that kind of halted my baseball endeavors. Okay. So during the healing process, post high school, I basically took a dance class as a form of just trying something new to rehabilitate the body and to kind of get me out of a funk, because I just wasn't feeling so great. I was in Edmonton, and I could no longer do the thing that I love to do. So I was a bit stuck. So I tried a hip hop class, and so that's what it was called. I'm not going to drop names of studios or anything like that. I'm not going to do that. But I did go to my first hip hop class, and I didn't really know what to wear. I didn't know what to expect, because I hadn't participated in any dance. So I just went with like a baseball jersey, and I was like, I'm just going to move and see how this goes. And it was myself and then a whole lot of girls in the class doing their thing, which made me very nervous and very insecure, because again, I didn't have the confidence as a dancer, and it wasn't me. But I did the best I could to follow along with the steps that there were. And there was actually another guy that came into the class late, and he just looked cool immediately. You know, he had the track suit and the white runners, and he came in just looking a lot cooler than the teacher.
Looking fly.
He was fly. And so I'm like, what is this? This is cool. And he actually, the first few steps that he was doing when he was freestyling in the room were glides. He was gliding, which I didn't know anything about, but it looked like a magic trick, because I thought he was floating, and I was fascinated. And then he was doing sort of like light popping and stuff like that, which again, I'm like, I don't know what's happening with this guy's body, but I want that. This looks so cool.
That's awesome.
So we ended up pairing up in that class that we were taking. It was his first class, my first class. And we paired up to basically come up with some moves together. And then all the students had an opportunity to teach the rest of the class. It was a student exercise on our first day.
Right.
So we paired up, and I was mostly following his lead. I threw in the very little things I knew, baseball influence, just generally moving around.
That's awesome.
And when we taught, and it was our turn to kind of lead the room a little bit, I guess everybody liked the vibe that we had, and they just were like, how do we follow these guys? Where do you guys teach? And we're like, whoa, we're students.
Yeah.
We just came in to learn. Like, we don't do this. So we were just gonna leave and kind of go our own separate ways. But when we kind of left the studio, there was another lady from within that room that approached us on the side and said, you guys got a cool vibe. You have something going on here that I think clearly people seem to like. You got a good style. And what would you think if I wanted to like help you advertise and manage your own studio? Like, what if you started your own company? And we're brand new. Like, we were just students starting.
So you guys had a connection immediately?
Immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and this was my partner, Mark, obviously.
Right.
We didn't have a name to anything. We just danced, and we vibed off of each other. And so long story short, we said, why not? Why not give this thing a shot as young men? Why not?
So what year was this?
This was 2001.
Wow.
Yeah. So we would just dance in our parkades a lot and try to come up with little routines. We were very inspired by movies like Breaking, because we
Right,
saw
right.
Breaking early stage of like with popping and locking and breaking. We thought it was cool. We didn't know the names to anything. We didn't have any reference points to it, but it moved us, and we just tried to emulate what we saw. That moved us into the club scene. That's when we got introduced to the club scene. And a lot of the local clubs in Edmonton started to catch wind of these two random guys that were out and about making noise in the community, and were performing and doing hip hop. So we became resident dancers at a few clubs, and I fell in love with that whole scene. That's when I really got into social dance.
Right.
And just vibing and dancing with the girls and learning how to just perform on stage with confidence. And that took us into deeper things. But that's really kind of the beginnings of it, and how we got into it. It was not a premeditated thing. We didn't have
So
any organized,
organically,
very
happened
organic,
organically.
very organic, and just fell in love with the energy of it, and the being able to share with other people around us, and kind of generating that electric energy was just so cool, so fun. And we did it ever since. It was 23 years later. We were still doing it. So.
That's super dope, man. That's
Yeah.
a really cool story.
Nice, man.
It's so cool how everything just happened organically, and in the magic of hip hop, like
Yeah.
what music does to you, the music and the vibe, and like I think that's super dope. I mean, we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
How about you, Tara?
For me, I, had different. I was originally a contemporary dancer, so I was really involved in the contemporary dance scene in Calgary, and I was in the university and getting my degree in contemporary dance, and just stumbled upon hip hop. I think like 1998. I went to a dance festival in Maine called the Bates Dance Festival, and I ended up in a class with a company called Rennie Harris Pure Movement, and yeah, so. Rennie's class was, I had never, previous to that, I'd gone to LA for a summer and trained in LA, and I thought hip hop came from Los Angeles, and I had taken hip hop classes at, different LA dance studios in the summer, and had sort of dabbled in it a little bit, but I didn't really know anything specifically about it, and I was really trying to be a contemporary dancer. And when I got into Rennie's class, and the warm-up was West African dance. And then he talked about the culture. And then he told us about, how the dance was related to, they were cultural expressions. And so he taught us breaking, popping, locking, house, hip-hop in terms of where it comes from as a cultural movement and as an expression of Black culture, which I didn't have any connection to at all.
Right.
Yeah. And so same thing, kind of became obsessed with it, was really, I think, initially obsessed with the movement of it, and breaking just really fascinated me. I loved the intricacy of it, the athleticism of it. And I felt that coming from a contemporary background, I started dancing as an adult. I didn't dance as a kid. And coming from a contemporary background where at that time it was pretty much like, ballet and bare feet. And I didn't have line. I didn't have the same background as many of my colleagues did. So I also found that the culture of this dance was so inclusive. Every single kind of person was in the room. There was like, big people, little people, white people, Black people, Asian people, all different kinds of human beings were like all in this room and in the class that I was in. And all that mattered was that people could just get down to this music and enjoy this music. And it was really about music also, which was not really the contemporary approach at that time either.
Right.
Contemporary was like, oh, listen to these like nature sounds in the background. And the kind of contemporary dance that I was studying wasn't really musically driven. And I loved the music. I really, really loved hip hop music, and it just made me want to dance. Yeah, so
what years was this?
So this was, I think, like 1998, I want to say.
1998.
Yeah. And Rennie also had a company at the time called Pure Movement, which performed at the festival. And so they were like, I can't remember exactly, maybe 12 men and 2 women. And their show blew my mind. They did African dance, they did breaking, they did house. The choreography was amazing. It was emotional. Rennie did a solo. It was like talking about, I saw in it also like you can talk about your life. You can talk about what you're going through this culture. You can talk about what's happening with you through this dance, which coming from what I had known about hip hop from LA was like, you do these combos to this music and you do this 5, 6, 7,
Right.
8. And it's like all about everybody looking the same. And then when I saw Pure Movement, I was like, wow, they're all so different. They're all incredible. They all freestyle. Like, you know, they were all doing these solos
These feels
that
real.
were mind blowing. And they were just incredible artists and interesting people. They, you know, the festival was 3 weeks long. So
Right.
you're hanging out with them every day. They all could write. They could all rap. They all could do, you know, there would be these dance parties every night with drummers and all these contemporary dancers. And they were just like killing every cipher and just these incredible movers. So I just really fell in love with it then.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about, you know, the culture being a Black and Latino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so important for people to know that for you guys as leaders of the community, what are some of the steps that you're taking to really help preserve that culture that is not directly from us? What are some of the steps that you like really take, or you know, you have a way that you like, you know, teach your community or help your community understand the importance of preserving the culture?
Yeah, I know. It's like similar to Terra, because when we were starting out, we didn't have an awareness of the connection to Black or Latin culture. We just thought it was a fun thing to do, and then we caught on to mostly what like the media portrayed hip hop to be, which was just sort of this big melting pot of a lot of things, all just called hip hop.
Right.
And so that's what was our understanding until we learned otherwise. And for us, actually, one of the biggest learning things for us was a camp that Tara had put on called Get Down, and it was a Get Down E-Town. And so in this camp, and full credit goes to Tara on this because we didn't know till we knew. She had brought down some of the electric boogaloos, and, you know, so we had, I think it was Khalif, Link, then we had who else? Pop and Pete, Sugar Pop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
a few
A bunch
big
of them.
names, a few big names that are pioneers of the dance, you know,
Right.
and were there when these dances were sort of coming into play. And so they came out to our city, and we had a chance to be exposed to it and learn the deeper connection to the music, you know, first and foremost, and then the people and the communities where these dances were born out of. And so it was at that point where we realized, okay, we have a lot of unlearning to do, and then we need to learn this properly. So we kind of followed suit with what Tara was already doing, which was then to try to connect our community to a lot of these living pioneers and living legends that were still teaching the dances, teaching the foundation, and educating people. So it was like, how do we get them involved in our cities so that people can learn directly from the source, you know, instead of just kind of hearing it just from me, who was not a part of it, didn't grow up there. It was not a part of the original days when these things were coming out. I'm just learning it as a guest. So we started to similarly bring in some of these artists from Elite Force, Electric Boogaloos, and just to be able to have them teach workshops and camps or jams. And so we've done a lot over the years. We used to put on events like Artists Emerge. When we had started it, was a hip hop competition that we did. And this was back in 2006 when we started it. And we would bring in pioneer breakers. Like we used to have B-Boy Stilo came in. We had Bradley Rapier from the Groovaloos come in the original years. Buddha Stretch came in. We had a lot of Sugar Pop was there one year. And every year we would try to keep connecting our community to these pioneers and these like OG heads.
I think at one point you even have Boogaloo Sam, right?
Yeah, we had Boogaloo Sam a bunch of years back, and the list goes on and on. There's dozens of amazing dancers that were there. But every time they would come in, we wouldn't just do the competition component. We would always have Q&As. We would do kind of sit down, get to know them, get to learn about the culture. And then whenever they would pass on to us, we would make sure our teachers would kind of still preserve that in the classroom so that they were still keeping those lessons alive.
Right.
And so that's something we have consistently done every year. So that's one way of making sure people understand where these dances come from and where the music originates from. And then, yeah, that's kind of one thing that that I think that we did that was pretty notable, at least as a studio, was always maintaining that integrity by trying to pay it back to the people who were there in the early days, kind of doing it that way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think for me it was like honestly from the get I realized that there was a huge, for me personally as a dancer, and for me personally, not even as an educator, and at the time I didn't have a studio or anything like that, but just for me as a dancer, when I realized, wow, like the people that created these dances, I can actually just learn from them.
Yeah,
Like
crazy.
I don't have to like get this information third, fourth hand. So like to me, I was again obsessed. So Rennie had an event that he called Legends of Philadelphia, Legends of Hip Hop, and so he did the first one. I think it was 1999, like the year after I met him. I can't remember exactly, but Don Campbell was there, and then he was bringing Pop and Pete, and he was bringing Wiggles, and just previous to that, there had been an event in Calgary called Hard Lino, where this guy, and Calgary has a very, very long history of authentic hip hop in our city from way back in the 80s.
Right.
There was a guy by the name of Wayne Headley who went to school in Los Angeles and met the security guard at his dorm, was dancing with the EBs in Pop and Pete's mom's garage,
Wow.
and invited him to go to the garage. And so back when popping was being innovated, Wayne learned from Sam, Pete, met Skeet, met Sugar Pop, was friends with all those guys, did shows with them while he was going to fashion school in Los Angeles. And then he came back to Calgary after that. And I think this is like 1984 or something like that. And he started a group called Streetscape.
Yeah.
And Streetscape had a popper, a locker, a waver, and a b-boy.
Nice.
And Wayne, there's footage of Wayne
He's
back
dope.
in those times talking about the different elements of hip hop, dance, and culture
Yeah.
when nobody else knew that. Everybody thought it was all one thing.
Yeah.
So way back then, he was talking about all this stuff. And I didn't know, I knew Wayne because he had a store in Bankers Hall called Aluminum Planet, where he had really dope hip hop clothes, and he had tapes of Style Elements, and he had tapes of B-Boy Summit, and he had a hardwood floor in his store. So he would, and Bankers Hall is kind of like across the bridge from this high school in Calgary called Crescent Heights High School. So at the time, and this is like late 1990s, yeah, all these kids were in high school that are now known as the Original Roots. But these guys were all in high school at the time, and the guy who owned the Domino's Pizza on the corner used to give them free pizza if they would like break outside the pizza place, because he knew they were kind of like, they didn't have money, a lot of money, and they're getting in trouble. So they kind of made a little crew dancing in front of the Domino's Pizza, and then they would like go across the bridge to Bankers Hall, and Wayne would have all these tapes and music, and he would let them practice
Wow.
and let them dance on his hardwood floor in Aluminum Planet.
That's
And
so
he
dope.
so dope. And so he kind of realized like they were kind of ignorant. They didn't know about all these things.
Right.
So he organized this event called Hard Lino, and he invited Bradley, Rapier, Wiggles came to the first one with his wife Z Boogie. So like they both taught.
Cool.
Flowmaster came, and Wayne didn't teach, but he was there. And this was before Groovaloos. This is before all of that.
Wow.
And they taught sort of different classes, and there was like, I don't know, 60 people from Calgary. This is where a bunch of Vancouver dancers like Kim and Miss V and all those girls came to this very, very early thing. It's like 1996, 7, something like that.
Wow.
Like late 1990s.
Right.
So I knew about Wiggles, and I knew about Flowmaster from this event. And then I saw that Rennie was having Don Campbell, who he had taught me was the creator of locking.
Right.
So I had no money. I stayed in like a youth hostel, like in West Philly, which was like in a war zone, and had to take the bus like 2 hours to the dance studio where it was, and didn't know, just this young girl from Calgary, didn't know anybody. And Don befriended me. He was the very first class I took at the festival, and he just plucked me out. And I hung out with Don Campbell every single day for 2 weeks. We like
Wow.
That's just
chilled in
so-
Philly. Yeah,
so
and I
lucky.
just yeah,
Lucky, amazing.
What?
yeah, listened to all his stories, and it just made in me personally as a dancer. And then I met Pop and Pete that first
Right.
week, and Wiggles obviously was there, and they were like, "You guys got to learn these things to get ready for Boogaloo Sam, because like you can't."
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, they were like getting
So
us ready
true.
for Sam.
Yeah.
And then Sam came to the second week for like 2 days and like taught us the Fresno. So then I got to meet Sam, and this was like early. I always think of it as such a blessing that I never learned any of these dances from anybody else
Oh,
but the
Yeah.
originators
Yeah, the
of
source.
them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's super,
And it just
super important.
because I just, as a dancer, just wanted that. I didn't have any other goals of anything really. I just was
Right.
like, I really want to learn this from the source.
Yeah.
And when Don and I kind of became friends, and at the time I was this broke single mom dancer, I was like making all these necklaces. So like I would sell necklaces to like try to make money to like pay for my trip. And so I had brought my necklace making stuff with me to Philly, and Don had asked me to make some for his daughter. So I made a bunch of necklaces for his daughter. So like
Wow.
That is
Don and I ended up
That's
having
amazing.
this like amazing, and rest in peace because he's
Yeah. Yeah, of
gone
course.
now, but we had this amazing connection, and yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
Such
so
a
that's
great story.
yeah, that's kind of how I started, and why from early on in my experience with hip hop and street dance, it was just part of it for me was understanding that these dances come from people.
Yeah.
They come from people who can tell the stories that are still alive and able
Right.
to tell the stories
Yeah.
today. And, I would go back to Calgary, and I was teaching some funk classes at DJD, or, teaching little classes here and there, just hustling, trying to like make a living. And there's a lot of pushback, people would be like, that's not hip hop.
Yeah.
They would be telling me like, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
They would be telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. And it was a bit of a like, well, no, like I actually do know. So
Yeah.
it became a thing where I'm like not a confrontational person. So I was trying to think like, how can I, because it's heartbreaking, honestly, it
Right.
hurt my feelings that all these people that are doing hip hop, quote unquote,
I know
had
how you
no
Yeah,
attachment to the
100%.
people who were my friends and teachers,
Right.
and who meant something to me in such a real, powerful way. And hearing their stories of what they went through to create these dances, and what they went through, and being in these environments, like being in Philadelphia is like no joke. These are not happy places where people are rich, and
Yeah.
like all of the stories that I think were ignored at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time also, like So You Think You Can Dance started, and so like there was like this Hollywoodization of it
Right.
happening that's hurtful. And so I sort of, well, I didn't actually intend to like start bringing them, but I made a little website. My boyfriend, who later became my husband at the time, he was like, you should make a website, and then you can put all this information on there. And
That's
you
awesome.
can like not have to talk about it all the time, and you can just refer people to the website. So I put the website on, and I had a thing about Don Campbell on it, and locking, and all of the knowledge that I was like gaining, I just stuck on this website. Again, no intentions to do anything with it. Just it was helping me to be able to,
Bring awareness. To
yeah.
the
And as a
community.
teacher, because I was teaching, but nobody still called it hip hop when I was
Wow.
teaching it.
Right.
In Calgary, it was called funk, and I was like, okay, and Fluky Luke somehow found my website. I don't know how, still to this day, how he found my website. But he like on Messenger, like which was the ancient
Messenger.
with a little
Love
person,
that.
yeah. He,
Yeah.
on Messenger, he messaged my friend Esther, and he was like, "Oh, you're from Calgary," like because she was like very technologically advanced compared to all the rest of us, and she was on Messenger all the time on her computer, like she had a laptop and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
What is that?
And I know.
What's this laptop phenomenon?
We were like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're talking to somebody on your computer.
Yeah.
Like what? Like I didn't even have a cell phone at that time.
That is awesome.
So
That's really inspiring, like super
Yeah.
inspiring story,
Yeah,
and
very.
and that speaks on the importance, like how much work you guys had to put into the community to be able to bring awareness to the next generations. I mean, at this point, we live in a world where we have so much access to much information, and believe it or not, there's still people out there that has a misconception, misunderstanding of what really street dance club styles in the
Yeah.
hip hop culture is. You know?
yeah.
What do you guys think that is like important for us to, as a community, to keep moving the community, like our, the next generation forward? and bring awareness to them and to teach them, about the real deal.
I mean, I was thinking about this morning, actually,
Yeah.
like just, making breakfast. And I was just, I think it's, I feel like, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I feel for myself, like I have to remember that even though I've been talking about it for a long time, and even though I've been teaching people about it for a long time, and even though there's like lots of information out there, there's so many young kids that actually just don't know, and we just
Yes.
have to keep
Yeah.
reteaching it and teaching it and talking about it. And I think not assuming that they know about it just because we know about it.
Yeah.
Because they're learning about it for the first time, and I think that's so exciting to me. I think is really it keeps, for me personally, it keeps what I'm doing relevant, and I feel blessed to like have these stories in their like quote unquote original form. But if we don't keep sharing it and resharing it with these youth,
Yeah.
then these stories are going to be lost,
Right.
and that this information is going to be
Right.
lost. And like all of the things, if we just assume that they should know about it, or
Right.
we just assume that they should be educating themselves about it, or, we don't make that effort to just continuously keep it fresh and keep talking about it and
talking
keep
about it.
educating about it, then I do think like, yeah, the stories will be either lost or taken over by someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Like rewritten.
Agreed. And then the thing with that is, I mean, people like Don or Greg, right, who, rest in peace, like you're not going to be able to have those stories communicated to you directly from them anymore. So now you're learning from their students and stuff. And it's when an elder passes, they're with them is like an entire library of information that is just goes with them. All those stories, which is how all of these things started, are kind of gone. And now you're going to get it secondhand, third hand, fourth hand. I think something that's cool just with what you're saying, Tara, is like with our students, I find you do have to meet them where they're at, because with any form of communication, like they're just going to close themselves off from you 100% if you try to just go and tell them what they're doing is, this is
Right.
wrong, and,
Right.
and that's not hip hop, and you don't know what you're doing and all that. If that's the first way you try to approach someone and
Right.
saying, come learn where it comes from, this and that,
Yeah.
they're not going to want to, whether it just because it doesn't sound relatable and cool, or it sounds too hard. That's why
Right.
people don't show up to these classes. But so for us, what we try to do is still make sure that you have mainstream, whether it's commercial choreography or a lot of industry today stuff that appeals to the kids. I hate even saying TikTok, but like it's how kids communicate today. It's how
Right.
they're learning. Now, I don't think that they're learning anything that it is correct. A
Yeah.
lot of the stuff
Yeah.
in portrayed through TikTok and even Instagram, little clips and stuff like that, these reels are not showing the true essence of the dance, but it gets them interested in dance.
Right.
And so if they're interested in dance and you're able to get them in a room and kind of connect with them that way, they're more receptive to hear
Right.
other stories. And then you can kind of pull it back a little bit and say, hey, check out some of these old Soul Train clips.
Yes.
And then they go, oh, what's that about? Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. And then it gives you an opportunity to educate a little bit, versus trying to do it the other way around, where they're not going to hear
They're
it.
gonna
They're going to
pick
go,
up
that's
on
old.
themselves.
That's
Yeah,
like
that's old
my
school.
grandparents. That's
Right.
not cool, But like if they get a little bit and they see that you still connect to them and you're willing to speak that language, then you have an opportunity in a door to kind of like open them up
Right.
to some of the original stories and clips that are thankfully still on YouTube. YouTube still has a lot of good stuff.
man,
It's got like
sure.
95% trash. Like
Yeah.
it's got if you go down the rabbit hole of hip hop, you'll find just insanely ridiculous things.
You'll find a lot of
You'll
things.
find a lot of things.
I posted something the other day on
Oh
my
my God.
Instagram. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's the misunderstanding that, they don't
Yeah.
know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And then the generation, just because it went viral, people like believe, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
And it's funny you say that, because we teach at schools a lot.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
the way I see the kids, like, oh, you guys know how to do moves. Let me see what moves do you can
Yeah,
do. And they come
exactly.
up with the moves. Oh, you know where that come from actually?
Yeah.
And I try to flip that up and say, this is how actually was created.
Yeah.
And these people, this platform took it from this culture.
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
and this is what it is. And people, the kids are like, really?
But they love to learn that. I mean,
Yeah, I
even because
find they do.
we tap into schools a lot too.
Yeah.
That's a great way to reach
Yeah.
a whole large body of people very
100%.
quickly and deliver a message.
Yeah.
And if you do something as simple as, let's say, a backslide, or something like that, and was like moonwalk, and it's like it's such a simple thing, but it gives you a chance to kind of let them know where this comes from and where it pulls from, like that it was mislabeled that there
Right.
is a moonwalk, but it's a completely different step. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And then have you seen this move before? Yeah, well, that's what moonwalk is, but backslide is another form of dance, and it
Correct.
pulls from tap, and it comes from all this. It gives you a chance to talk about it, and then the kids are really interested, and then they tend to want more.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that way to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
You know, sort of say, what do you know? What's cool for you? What is like the hottest thing that makes you want to get up and move?
Right.
Okay, it's the floss, or you know, it's gonna be the whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, cool. And like you said, did you know where this pulled from? I know you learned it off a video game, but do you understand that this was like a club dance from the 80s?
Exactly.
And they go, oh, cool. And then that opens up more conversations about the culture, the style, the people, you know, the conversation.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to also tell them the truth about where these things come from, like, and that they should know where it comes from.
100%.
I think one of the things that, you know, I try to encourage my teaching team is just like, we don't need to whitewash everything, like, and we don't need to always, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the kids knowing that these cultures also are disenfranchised people who's had, you know, real struggle. And we talk about Martin Luther King, and we talk about the Black Panthers, and we talk about, you know, segregation, and we talk about all of these things that were precursors to the development of hip hop
hip-hop
culture.
Yeah.
And they were the things that influenced these young kids to have to create something like this in order to stay positive and to survive. And so I think, you know, that aspect of it, when you're asking, you know, how do we preserve the culture of it, is also so critical, to trust that the kids that may not have any experience of that, you know, they've
Right.
never really been really racialized, probably most of them, you know, or anything like that, that to trust that, like, they can, like, actually also know what's what,
Yeah.
you know, and we need to not necessarily make everything palatable to them because we don't trust that they actually can know that. I think that's a big fear that a lot of educators have, is like, well, they're not going to like to dance, or they're not going to, like, you know, want to get in the room. And it's like, well, they need to still know that, because I always think, but for my students, I want them to be able to go to New York and know what's up, and like
100%.
not be mad at me that I didn't educate them properly, so that they can't, like,
Yeah.
be in the culture,
It just
the
falls
global
back on
culture.
you, right? Because we are connected to people that they are pioneers. They are from the culture, and obviously they're watching. They're watching what we're doing in our communities. Some of them, you know, embrace us for what we're doing and the way we are educating our communities. And for me, I teach them everything. I say this comes from the struggle, so and so. And I actually myself, every year we take our students to New York. We do
Exactly.
36. We do a lot of different things in New York. We take them to tours, and we also go to one of the most important jams for me, which is used to be called Tools of War, down far from it originally used to be by Popmaster Fable and his wife, and now Grandmaster Cass has taken over, and it's a super cool jam in the Bronx, and that is hip hop. And then, believe it or not,
Totally.
my people from here, from Red Deer, they're like, wow,
Of
this
course.
is incredible. That's the
Yeah.
highlight of our trip every
Yeah.
year, because they actually get to feel the vibration and the people and the music.
Yeah.
You got Tony Touch spinning, you got
Yeah.
rest in peace, Beast Marquis spinning,
Yeah.
and people get to see this directly, and it's
Yeah.
super cool to see that. And then now they come to the city and they're like, no, listen, you haven't been to New
Exactly.
York, you haven't learned about the culture.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
That's
for me,
powerful.
that's super cool that
Yeah.
to be able to. I'm blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's something that I love, and I'm sure you guys can relate.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and it is hard. It's true. It's hard to be able to get somebody to understand and experience if they don't experience it.
Right.
Like, you can explain it and use all the greatest words in
Right.
the world to try to get them connected to it.
Correct.
But if they're not exposed in some way to the energy, like you mentioned,
It's energy.
then they're not going to feel it. And it has to come from that feeling of the experience, and it's usually uncomfortable most of the time.
Correct. So like
Which they don't want.
That's
Because
right.
kids don't want that.
don't
feeling.
want that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
once they feel it,
Yeah, I
everything
think they
changes.
do.
Everything
Yeah.
changes.
So
yeah,
funny story, right? So we bring a lot of pioneers, a lot of good names to our cities, and like
Yeah.
especially for Central Alberta and Red Deer.
yeah,
But one of those examples is Crybaby Cozy. I
Yeah.
have Mr. YouTube here doing live feed,
Yeah.
right? And of course, it's awesome. They're learning directly from them. But I'm like, well, one year we need to go back and I'll show you. So what I did, as soon as I arrived to New York, I'm like, I contacted Mr. YouTube. So bro, what's up? How you doing? Good. He's like, man, you gotta come to the session that I was talking about, because he was telling me this about in Canada. So I'm like, all right, let's go. So I took my students to just a session with the kids in Harlem.
Oh, wow, cool.
Nothing replaces that. Like
Yeah.
there's
Wow.
no class that we
No.
can get in,
No.
any type of setting or mirrors. There's nothing. You got into like this community center. One of the main organizers is Richard. I can't remember his last name. Huge shout out to this dude, because he's doing something really cool for the community.
Cool.
But anyways, you get into Harlem, and the energy, I cannot describe to you the energy
Yeah.
of these kids just like
Yeah.
really going at it and live feed. And my students were like, okay, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they come back to the city and they are able to share that with the rest of the kids.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, really? And then now they have a direct feeling
Yeah.
of that energy.
Yeah.
It's super important.
And then you got to just keep feeding that
right.
feeling.
Right.
Yeah. I think that was like one of the great things about doing that event that I did so many years ago was,
Yeah.
which was called Get Down. And I did it, with like 2 weeks in the summer. And the main reason that I did it was I was like, well, let these kids learn it from the source. They don't have to go.
Yeah.
It's like at the time the dollar was like
Right.
155 or something like that. And so all of my students went to it, and then I just found like it made my teaching so much easier.
Yeah.
It made it so much easier to sort of like keep my community growing. And so many people, so many dope dancers came out of that event. And yeah, I think like, exposing your students and your community to the source just makes everything easier,
Yeah,
and
it
it just
does.
makes everything like, I'm sure your kids now, like they teach to one person and they teach one person and they have that now
one, teach one.
inside
Teach one,
that
teach one.
and they have
Yeah.
it inside themselves. So that's real. Yeah, that's cool.
We understand as the leaders of the community, our communities, what it takes to teach, our youth, the next generation. We also face a lot of different, waves in our cities. And one of those things is like, I see it all the time, new studios popping up, boom, boom, boom. I'm
crazy.
like,
Everywhere.
wow, how is there so many?
Yeah.
So what do you think is like, where's the community at in you guys' like cities? Because for me, it's like the way I see it is like, we don't need more studios. We need to come together as
Come
a
together,
community.
yep.
So some of those studios, I check everything. I really do. I watch everybody, right? And not like
Yeah.
nobody, but I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
watching everything. What's everybody doing? But some of these people offer and they preach hip hop culture. So but you see their videos and you see what they're doing, and it's like, wait, like nah. And for me, what's crazy is like they have so much access to you guys and to myself within within our cities that how can you not see the truth? Right? Sometimes we come together into the same events or battles or competitions, and I'm like, they are so lost. I walk in there, watch these guys, they are lost. Like it's not what it is. So what do you think the community is missing? What are we missing as a community that people is just like, oh, I'm gonna open my own studio, I'm gonna open this, I'm gonna open that.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice if more studios could come together, where even just the directors or like the main teachers could have conversations and then talk about mutual ways of everybody get like training and sharing and exchanging. Because I feel like out of that would come something at least that can communicate on a broad spectrum to all the students across the board instead of the division
Right.
that happens. Because dance becomes politics, right? When everything
Lots.
is just trying to like divide themselves and be like, no, I have my thing, don't touch it. I do what I do, I'm doing me, and everyone has that thing. And then it becomes very hard for people to ever come to the table
together
and talk and just
talk
like
about it.
dance. I feel like parties are missing. I think that would be really helpful. We're trying to do a little bit more of that in our studio this season by sort of being less competitive and a little bit more inclusive to like, let's all come together once a month when everyone can commit
Right.
to like 3 hours. And whether you just come to like sit, eat, and talk, or you want to dance and get in a cipher, or you want to like showcase choreography, let's agree to all do that. And we've been able to do that so far. with not all the studios, because there's just
Right.
so many studios in Edmonton that are trying to
Man.
do hip hop. It blows my mind.
Every time I
But-
see Edmonton, is like
It's
another one
unreal. I
popping up.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, and they're all vying for the same thing. I think it's they wanting to just be hype, ride the hype train, and be top tier choreography, win these events, win these competitions. That the social part of it's kind of getting lost. The connections getting lost
Yes.
to music, to each other, right? And certainly the source, like to be able to understand where any of these things come from. So we're hoping, at least from our perspective, because we don't get a lot of people coming to a lot of our classes either that are training based and just purely to learn. It doesn't happen.
I
but-
always say eventually they have to go back to
Yeah.
the foundation. They have to go to the
Yeah.
roots, back to the roots.
Yeah. But we think, I don't know, I think through parties, at least if it's fun, and then
Right.
we're trying to bring some guests in, so maybe there's something they can get out of it. It's affordable. It's like eliminate as many excuses from the table.
Right.
And if they can't make any anymore because you've made it so accessible and easy for people, I'm hoping that we get more participation, and then from there the opportunity to learn, watch videos, talk to pioneers that are still around and people that are still doing it, so that we can all share stories and kind of
I mean, we all talk about it, right? Peace, love, unity, and having fun. But
Yeah.
I feel like that is missing, the unity part of it. The
Yeah.
fun is there within our own circle, Peace, of course, love, yes, we love what we do.
Yeah.
But that
The unity piece,
with
yeah.
that, like in our cities, and then like for us to come together.
Yeah.
What is it gonna take for us to be real and say, all right, we really need to figure this out. We talk about acceptance. We talk about how hip hop is very like welcoming to any race, any whatever, wherever you're from, right? But yes, we get caught up in how busy we are and as a business, and we forget to the main goal of all of this is why did Africa Bambaataa
Yeah.
created this? Why
Yeah.
why he have these principles?
Yeah.
I mean, if you unlock it, let me know. I feel like since the get, I
Yeah,
have
I'm
been
with
trying
you
to
on that.
do that. Like, I have always tried to reach out to different communities and bring people together and open things up and connect with this person and that person and da 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 da. And like, over what is it now, 25 years doing it in Calgary, it's just like not. I don't know. I wouldn't say that I've given up, but I think I'm kind of at a point right now where I've just realized I'm not for everybody. Hip hop's not for everybody. You're over there doing what you do, and you're over there doing what you do, and the doors open. I just created
Yeah.
this hip hop festival
But
a
it's
couple of years
frustrating,
ago.
right?
I mean, it's frustrating, but also like, so I started this hip hop festival last year or 2 years ago in Calgary. Ken Swift was here, invited the breaking community. Like, no one from the breaking community came out, and Kenny was the judge
Wow.
of the battle. So like, we had 6 or 7 b-boys. I offered
That's
a
crazy.
free. I paid for a bunch of breakers in Calgary to train with Ken for a week,
Yeah.
and couldn't really. Maybe 6 of them participated in it. Then last year we did it a bit bigger, and we had, just all these different artists come through. Marley Hightower, because I thought, well, maybe we need to like have somebody that's more on the choreography tip, who's still really doing
Yeah,
authentic
right.
hip hop.
It's crazy because her class sold out.
It didn't sell out, and her class did not.
But it was the fullest.
It was the fullest,
got
but
the
it didn't
most.
sell out.
Yeah.
And her work didn't really, I think, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like people, like you said, are too busy wrapped up in their own business that they
Yeah.
don't have time or motivation to seek out other things. If people are very insular and so they feel threatened by other things happening, or if they just aren't interested. I'm not really sure, but I think where I'm at right now is like, I'm not really focusing on that. I'm more focusing on the people that do resonate with what I'm doing.
Correct.
And the people who do really resonate with and just being really clear on what the lane is. Like, I know what I stand for, what my studio vision is. We are authentic hip hop and street dance education. We like bring pioneers, but also new cats that are like doing really amazing work within the global community. And there's lots and lots and lots and lots of them, and connecting with people that are like-minded. And the other people, I'm sort of employing like peace, love, respect, unity, knowledge, having fun. Like they're doing what they're doing, and that's all good. And they're doing what they're doing over there. And if what we're doing doesn't vibe with them or resonate with them, you know, like, I don't know about Red Deer and Edmonton, but Calgary's got over 1 million people. So like there's something for everybody, and not everybody is going to connect with what we're doing. And that's fine, because I want to now, and this is like me the past 2 years, because like for 20 years I've been like, people come to me and like everybody needs to know this. Now the past very recent history, I'm like, you know what, the people that are here, you people are going to get everything I have. And the people that do want or are turned on by what we're doing, like they're going to get all the best that I can possibly give them. And that's so satisfying. And that's been so positive and so much less frustrating. And you know, you always wish like I'm not trying to reach out to other people, but I have found, and even just like I was telling you most recently, that's a bit of a dead end, because at the end of the day, like people have their own reasons for getting involved or not getting involved, and that's not really any of my business.
And that's their reason. That's their thing.
I'm trying to like not get attached to
you could
all
go
of
crazy
that.
trying to like think why those decisions happen and why people don't jump in and maybe.
And this is the way of the world. You know what I mean? Like they get it. I mean, not everybody. It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate, and I feel like I often think about what it must be like to be Pop and Pete or Link or Stretch, to see what they've created, to be so
ran down.
Totally.
At times.
Yeah.
It's few people.
Yeah.
So few people really kind of embracing what it is. And it's not a credit thing, but just like really understanding what it is. Is it really been their gift to our whole planet?
Right.
You know,
I mean, we're just talking about.
Think of that.
Right. We're just talking
sad.
about Central. It is. Talking about Central Alberta, you know, Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer. I mean, this happens worldwide. Like we witnessed it recently in the Olympics, in an incredible, huge platform. They were so important for some of the community. Maybe for some people it wasn't good. That's not what they want to see their culture in that kind of platform. You guys saw what happened now with this new dancer, right? What are some of the pros and cons that you can share from the Olympics, from the experience that you see happening these past?
I think it incites curiosity. I mean, if anything, it gets more people aware that breaking is not just an athletic dance, but it's a cultural art form. It's a whole movement. It gets them to look into more things, which is not a bad thing. I think, because at the end of the day, there still was a lot of great representation in breaking. Like I know there was sort of, you know, the one dancer that did her thing, and you know that was her thing. But I think with the Olympics being able to showcase breaking on such a high level and to show it being done on that way, I think it just sort of brought the limelight back to it as an art form where people go, can I do that? Like, is that something that I could jump into? It's inspiring. And if it's inspiring people, then they're going to want more information. And so that's where studios like ourselves get maybe some questions coming in and saying, do you offer breaking? Do you have this? My kids saw the Olympics, and now it's another opportunity to teach and connect them to credible, real sources. So I think on that side, it was very good.
What are some of the cons that you see from it?
Well, I think, you know, I think it's a very complex question that you're asking.
Yeah.
I think for myself, you know, I just have so much deep respect for all of the dancers that were part of the Olympics and what it takes. You know, I think it's lost on people what it takes to get to that level of dance and what it takes to get to that level of, you know, incredible athleticism, creativity, imagination, determination, discipline, all of the things that it takes to get to that level of their dance is, I have nothing but respect and admiration for them. And I feel so sad that, especially with the B girls, I feel like the Olympics a little bit dropped the ball. I feel
it did.
It was a bit, you know, they lacked a little bit of respect of what the what the culture was and is, and I think they had a little bit of ignorance around it, like why they started with the women and didn't start with the men. And I think the way that it was structured was maybe not as effective as it could have been.
Right.
And I think, it's just so ironic that the one person we're talking about is her when I think about Logan, I think about Ami, and I think about the dancers that won. They're incredible human beings, like what they've accomplished and what, like, the dedication, money, they've sacrificed everything to be there. So I think I'm more focused on that. And I think in terms of it being a cultural expression, I don't think that anybody in the culture was under any kind of sort of misinterpretation that breaking in the Olympics is a representation of breaking as a culture.
Right. Culture, yes.
I think that the people that are, the people that know. And it was an amazing opportunity for those dancers to showcase their skill, to have it acknowledged what they've accomplished. I'm so proud to be part of this culture that it made me so proud. I was crying, honestly, watching the B-boys. It was just so emotional. The Olympics is cool. And what those Olympic athletes, every single Olympic athlete is, for me, a huge inspiration as a human being.
Yeah.
So I think it's dope that it was part of it. I don't think it hurt the culture in any way. Is it breaking culture? No. Does it represent breaking as an art form? No. Is breaking a sport? Somewhat. But it missed out on a bunch of things, but I think it also gave a platform that's incredibly powerful, and I think really made me super proud and
Huge shout out
moved
to
me
Phil
emotion-
Wizard, man.
Oh my
Huge shout
gosh.
out.
Yeah.
And what an
Our very own
incredible
Canadian.
human
Yeah.
being he is. And every single one of those guys and women.
That's right.
And including Reagan. Like, I think it's just unfortunate what happened, and she had, I think some bad advisors. She
All right.
just
I want to ask you another question. I want you to keep it real. I want you to describe Reagan in one word.
misguided.
I would say, miseducated, maybe. Yeah, that's what I would say. I feel like just maybe didn't get the education or exposure to some of the dance that was needed to be with what she was doing. I think maybe it was just she did it for different reasons. She was herself. She's authentic and wanted to be her. I don't go into the politics inside of it because you can't. I'm not there. I don't really know, and I don't think anyone ever really will. But I think there's always a credit to just doing you in a way. Like, you can be you, but because you're representing a dance that's rooted in a culture, there is still information that I think was just missed, that she either didn't get to learn or she didn't get to be a part of that scene.
I feel like she
it's
knows.
miseducated.
I feel like she knows, and she took that opportunity.
I do too.
You think so?
100%.
Yeah, I think she just dropped the ball. Like, if you're going to do that, this is just my opinion. If you're going to do that, you got to be way more dope than that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, if you're going to be like, I'm going to take my moment, then yes.
Yeah.
But
I think
I also might
gotta
say
kill it.
I might say goofy if I had another chance to say. Or where it was also kind of goofy. Like it made it slapstick. It was almost silly because what did it create, like 10 million memes in a day?
my
yeah,
goodness.
it's so unfortunate.
Which is unfortunate because she's probably a cool human, but it's like as the dancer representing the dance, then everyone took that as an opportunity to like just go and attack, and then that becomes affiliated in a small way with breaking.
But I feel like that's one of the things that the culture has. Everybody wants their own shine, their own credit. And I feel like she wanted her credit. She wanted to be that representation of her country. And unfortunately, you're not ready for that. You're not ready for that
That's
platform.
misguided. That's what
And I
think.
feel like that's what's one of the things in our community worldwide is missing. Everybody wants who's doing the most, who's bringing the most, and then I think that's one of the reasons, one of the issues that we have, why we can't come together.
Yeah.
Because, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing that, but I want to do this and this and this, and I make it better and better and better. And then we never come together as a community to really push the narrative forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. I mean, as I said, like, I've been really devoted to that, but I just think I think also possibly everybody has a different interpretation of what the narrative is.
Yeah.
And then I also think a little bit the narrative has some holes in it. You know, like when you get down past like what the legend is of where hip hop started and all that stuff, when you get down to like some of the other nitty gritty things about it, and when you really do your research and know all the things that have happened and, but you know, I mean, I think I go back to each one, teach one. And if all I can do is just teach one person, and if all I can do is just like do what I'm doing and, you know, have an open door to people that it resonates with, then that's what I can do. Like I would love to, I mean, I would love to connect with you guys on every single thing that I'm doing, which I feel like, Rico, you and I have connected on a lot of things.
Right.
Like we share artists and we like are doing all those kinds of things. And Carla in Edmonton also is kind of doing that too.
Yes.
So I think I would love to do more of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
We've talked about doing it.
Yeah.
So whether it be artists or whether we maybe make time to sort of, maybe we have a yearly or every 6 months sort of like summit where the three of us and other leaders in the community get together and plan something or
important.
something like that. Like
I think it'd be very
cool.
helpful. That'd be super
Just like,
helpful.
you know, it's time. It takes time. It takes focus. It takes us to be dedicated to it. And maybe, you know, I mean, we're here now.
Yeah.
So like, why don't we just plan?
Every-
Why don't we just work together on it? You know?
I think it's the first step's already been made, right? It's just what we can do moving forward. I think everybody, like every leader, whether they're younger or older, they've been doing it for however many years.
Right.
I think they all experience some kind of struggle. They all have like a story about how they had to overcome something to get what they have, and they can share that, and then we can all learn from that. I think sometimes we just don't know that because we're not in their shoes. We don't understand what they go through. We just see through the lens of social media and whatever, which, what does that say? It doesn't say anything, you know? So I think there's a lot of judgments made about what people go through and what kind of business they run and stuff like that. But until people sit down and talk and like genuinely, empathetically try to just like understand the person and listen to them.
Yeah.
Because at that point, then you can talk, because then we understand where you're coming from and what you've been through to get to where you are and what your goal is with it. So I would love to see more of those. I think that's a great idea to do like a summit, like a touch base.
I'm down, man. I'm down. I'm here. I'm in the center. I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
So anytime you just want to come down and we can get together and
yeah. And I think it's also a little bit like, or I'm learning now, you know, it's a little bit to do with business. Like, you know, people, you know, I have found it's helpful to be respectful of the people in my city's businesses, that they're not going to always want to partner with us because it is business and everybody is hustling, you know, and I think being respectful and also understanding, like there are certain boundaries around that. You know, we can't all like be doing the same thing,
Right.
Yeah.
because we are trying to build something that is unique and also is offering people what our vision is. So I think I'm not really sure what the solution is, like to work together with sort of similar businesses that are somewhat in competition with each other. I think you're kind of in a good situation in Red Deer where there is nobody else sort of doing what you do. But in Calgary, there's, you know, and in Edmonton, there's a lot of people doing hip hop dance studios or doing things, and you want to be respectful and I personally don't want to engage in like tearing down other businesses to promote my own business.
No.
But then I also want to understand, like, you know, we are somewhat in competition with each other, and we do have to acknowledge that and be real about that. Like, I don't think it serves us well to just be like, oh yeah, like, you know, you're down the street from me and we're all doing kind of similar things, and then let's be friends. But it's like kind of phony because like really we're not really friends.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of a more delicate relationship that maybe there's experts out there that can help us navigate it.
It's
I
a
don't
little bit
know.
cutthroat sometimes, man. It's cutthroat. I've had this person, I'm not going to name this person, but all of a sudden she decided to come to Red Deer and open a studio. She has one in Edmonton and one in Calgary. But
I think I know who you're talking about.
we're like, okay, well now, that's
I'm like, okay, let's do it. Bring it. Because I know what I have, but the thing for me is that she tried to reach out to my teachers directly.
Yeah.
And then, hey, you want to
exactly.
come and teach? Wait a minute. No, that's a big no for me. Like, you're gonna come disrespect like that, no. And ever since she reached out to me after, I think she realizes, and I say, absolutely no, I'm not working with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Exactly.
And
there
sometimes-
just
yeah.
are people out there, I think, that are like that.
Yeah.
It's a tough lesson. I've
Yeah.
learned many of those tough lessons.
That was about a couple years ago. Where's the studio now? I don't know.
But you know what though? Because
It's
what
in Calgary, but
yeah, it's in Calgary. Tara knows. Yeah, Tara's experienced all that several times over. But yeah, I think the things that we just assume
it
are
stop.
common sense are just not. They're not so common for everybody. You know, like the etiquette between studios and the conversations you should have when you're sharing teachers or you're sharing students or whatever. I think a lot of those things, because I've had lots of the same experiences with that and going, why? Like, how do they not get it? You know?
Yeah.
Like a conversation's missed, but then I realized once you just take the initiative. Like if you want to make the change, take the initiative and do it. Because
Yeah.
I think just sitting and waiting, saying, well, they should do this and do that.
Yeah.
Cool. Then nothing changes. People likely just go about doing what they're going to do,
Yeah.
unaware that it even affects you. And you might be like, how do you not know that? It should feel so obvious, but it's not.
No.
And in my experience, it's like until you've just in a nice way say, hey, look, we should just have a quick little sit down as professionals, as people who are running businesses and going through things, and just here's like my standards for how I'd like to run things. And when you did that, did you know, heads up, that kind of affected me and hurt my
Right.
feelings, and I don't think it helped the community, etc. And then you can have the conversation, but it's like you still have to have that conversation, the willingness to sit down with the person.
Yeah.
Because you can't just kind of front from far and be like, I'm mad you did that. You
I
should've
respect
known."
that.
You know,
I respect that.
I think more conversations go a long way. Like break bread with people if you can, or at least have the willingness to
Right.
do it. And
Definitely.
and do that can help.
Absolutely.
Going off something you said too, Tara, that I agree with is, and this is about like how do we change and get people more inclusive and like bring real culture to people so they want to learn. I think a lot of it, like you're saying, with it sometimes starts with one, or like a small pocket of people. Something I love to do a lot in our studio is just like private training, private mentorship. Like I built a room that's mirrorless. It's got Soul Train all over it. It's got like historical artwork up and it's stories everywhere. And it's just I try to make it feel really authentic for the student that comes in. And then it's a place where we can have conversations and just like really give them what we know and be able to share stories and have them watch films and get them to have access to the right resources. So that like every week they're doing the work, they're doing the studies, and that one person can then go and spread it to another person. And it does kind of like spread outside of that own individual influence when it's like you inspire somebody. So I love being able to just work with small groups,
Right.
More than sort of the massive classroom setting. I find a lot of the information gets lost in big classrooms like that. But when I work privately with people, I find the impact lasts longer and that they tend to take the energy they get from that and they spread it. And then I find like without even knowing, other students are learning things that I've taught. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's great that you're doing that. So
By the way, I saw last year in one of the competitions that I went to, I saw one of your students,
Yeah.
Reese Hatala.
yeah,
Man, props to you, man. She's doing incredible. I saw that popping piece that she was
Thanks,
doing.
man.
It's super dope, and it speaks on what you're just saying. That
Yeah.
when people really takes the time and
Yeah.
and cares and then really train, you
Yeah.
can see the difference. And I went to I went to tell her that. I said,
Yeah.
I want you to know that you're super dope.
yeah.
Like,
That's
that's
cool.
awesome.
No,
So
thanks
awesome.
for saying that too.
man.
But that's what I mean, because it has to go beyond just me. I mean, I'm going to keep getting older, and the kids are going to keep thinking I'm more and more irrelevant because of my age or because of whatever. They're going to be like, I don't want to learn from this old dad guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not even a dad, but sure. Like, because I get put into that bracket a lot. He's a white guy in his 40s. Like, why do I want to learn from looks like every other Albertan dad? You know what I mean? And I'm like, fair point. I do, I can. But so it's cool that if you can inspire even just a couple of kids that are in that age bracket that does speak on bigger platforms to a lot of the other kids, they're more inclined to want to learn from them.
She's a perfect example.
Yeah, she's
And
an
her
example of
sister
that.
as well.
Yeah, and her sister, and there's several others as well. But it's just, I like to do it kind of that way, and then I just trust that if I've given them something authentic and I've passed on what I know, that at least their students as they grow up or their friends are going to learn, because they'll be so interested and excited by what we have in the room that they'll pass it down the line, kind of thing,
Super dope.
down the soul train.
Yeah.
On the soul train.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we don't do the one-on-ones, but the Beast Machine Kids, that's the whole vision behind my youth group. Is I really wanted to create I realized the teens, it's too late. The adults,
Yeah, with the
after having done Get Down for so many years, the adults is too late.
Yeah.
Like they just,
Wait a
they're
minute,
gonna
it's never too late. I'm competing this year.
no,
Tara.
Yeah,
but I mean,
come
like,
on,
it's
Rico.
too
I'm
late.
competing
But you're
for it.
already
I am too,
converted.
bro.
Really?
I'm gonna see you out there, man. Let's go.
But you guys are already converted. I mean, like, it's too late to change people. But I think with the kids, I was like, if you get them when they're young, and it is just what they learn from the get. So for me, the Beast Machine Kids are like my living history of hip hop.
Yeah.
They are getting information from the source. They're learning the history. They're learning the dances. They're doing all the things with it that they can, and doing it from a young age. And this little army that knows the stories and knows the people and have met them and hung out with them and learned from them,
And they
and
can
has
pass it
this
to the next
they
generation.
get it in the DNA, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like, even if they don't become dancers, even if they don't dance, they go through life with this understanding and with this experience. And
Yeah.
it's powerful. Hip hop is a powerful
Every time I see
Yeah.
Beast
Force.
Machine perform, you can see that they have been given the right information or learn directly from the source. And that's important. Like you can see that in dancers without them even saying it, oh, I know this and that.
Yeah.
Like through the dance, you can see, okay, who is this person? learning
yeah,
from?
Yeah.
Like,
this essence.
the essence is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. What is one of the things? We're gonna wrap it up. And what is
Yeah.
one of the? I want you to name one event or one battle that was so memorable to you during your career.
Yeah. Most memorable event.
Or
That is it.
highlights that you like.
I mean,
It's a lot of parties. Man. Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of iconic events.
Yeah.
Like,
It's gotta be one.
I
It's gotta be
think-
one like you're like, oh, this was such a, very impactful for the community.
for my community in Calgary,
Mm-hmm.
an event that happened in Calgary. Oh, okay.
Or in Canada in general.
Yeah. I think of like Bust a Move is incredible for Canada.
Yeah.
I guess not within my own dance community, but that was like, for me, was a memorable one.
Definitely Bust a Move.
Bust a Move was amazing.
So dope.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
so dope.
That was it was inspiring to see that type of impact and the energy of just like people and culture as a whole, and saying, if that's possible, what could I do? It gave a lot of context. I think Vancouver Street Dance does a really good festival.
Yes.
Haven't got to attend it, but from what I've seen, and my dancers who have been and then come back, they change. They're like, I feel like they're doing something right there.
Although they're done. They're not doing it.
Are they really? Is it
Yeah.
done? No.
Yeah, they're done.
Really?
The last one was last year. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, they made a
Oh.
big announcement.
I didn't
They did
know
it
that.
for 10 years. That was a dope event.
Wow. No, I can't believe it.
Is it-
My daughter wanted to go there.
Oh, it was
Charlie,
so,
she's
so
Yeah, your kids. Shout out
Dope.
Rico's kids, by the way.
Yeah.
Amazing. They're so
Yes.
funky. So funky.
Thank you, man.
so good. Talk about getting in the DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
she's
They
got a
wanna
lot of
go.
information.
They want.
I
Oh
know.
my God, they got
she's
a lot
like,
of information.
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
I'm gonna go back to for Edmonton, just where it started for me was the Get Down Eat Town. So it's
Nice.
a nod to Tara, because that was that event kind of started a lot of the movement for us in wanting to like bring real hip hop and street dance competitions to Edmonton, and then it became more nationally known at that point, Artists Emerge, which then created other dance events. It was just about bringing source to your city and then getting people's connections to be as close to the real thing as possible. Like, obviously our city is far removed from what it feels like to be New York or LA,
Yeah.
but we wanted people to feel something similar to that. And what Tara had created was that opportunity. And so it was just a really great event. It was a lot more than a workshop. It was a feeling. It changed me. It got me to tattoo, pop, and lock on my back.
Let's go.
Your event made me put my first two tattoos on
Oh
my
my
back.
gosh,
Because I
hilarious.
met Pop. I met Sugar
Yes.
Pop, And my life changed after that day. 'Cause
Yes.
he had come out and watched everyone lock and was just like, y'all ain't dancing.
Yeah.
And he was very clear. He's like, that's just not the source, man. That's not it.
That is
Oh my
And
gosh,
he's-
that's a really good impression.
Thank you. But yeah, I just fell in love with it because I'm like, he kept it real. And I was like, okay, someone needed to have this conversation. Dancers needed to hear it. And it opened my eyes and my mind to like, okay, there are stories that just are not being connected properly. So it made us hungry to do more of that. I was like, we've got to follow the example that
That is
Tara was
awesome.
doing. And
Huge shout out to Tara.
yeah, huge. No, it was. Anyone worth their salt in Edmonton street dance, if they don't bring up Tara's name, they don't understand
Yeah.
how important you were to all of Alberta. Like
my
so
gosh.
important to us. Totally. Without question.
Yeah.
Because that was a catalyst for us in trying to create our own things and to do it well and do it right. And I know how much personal sacrifice you've gone on to do what you do to bring in people at your own expense. And I know
Yeah.
that it makes nothing and
Yeah.
it leaves you with a lot. But you do it. You do it every year with integrity and just
Aw,
showing
thank
respect. And
you.
we love that. Like Stacey and I both respect you a ton.
Oh my
And you,
gosh.
Rico. Like you,
Yes. Oh, it's back at you guys.
yeah,
for
this
sure.
is huge. That's why
Yeah. Thank
being
you, guys.
here means a lot because you guys both live it by
Yeah.
example, and you're always
Same
there
with
for your
you.
students, and I love that. So I just want to absorb a lot of what you guys are creating. You know,
Likewise, man. You guys are inspiring. Like, like just doesn't matter being from different cities, but I definitely see what you guys doing, and it's inspiring. And I learn a lot from you guys as well. So
Thanks, brother.
it's super cool that
Aw,
that we are
Yeah.
here together.
Yeah.
man.
it is. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
It was so important, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, for real.
Yeah.
I think that I always ask why are not coming. We are coming together as a community. It's like, especially for my city right there. It's just like it's important for me as a leader to say, this is what you can do. You need to connect. You need to make look at things that
definitely.
are very important for the community and keep growing and keep pushing the narrative forward.
yeah,
So
And not be afraid
appreciate
to, I
it.
think. Not
Yeah.
be afraid to connect. I think,
Right.
there's only to be gained by
yeah,
connecting.
this
yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
I always show
Yeah.
up to anything, man. If it's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
opportunity of something, I gotta show up because
Yeah.
something good is gonna come out of that. Like
Yeah.
I always, and that's how I've been doing. Like everything that I do, I live by that. Say, well, it's a small little thing. Doesn't matter. You show up. You never know who's gonna be there, and you're gonna
Yeah.
connect, and you're gonna make a, good connection. Maybe you potentially do a big event or something for my community, which is it's important for me.
yeah.
So
Facing fears, conquering adversities. Those are things we always
Right.
want our students, and we want them to know and understand that. So they have to do it
Yeah.
more. There's
Well, they
no
see
the
us, right?
solution's never in like you can't explain someone's ability to understand and experience.
Yeah.
Like they have to walk the walk, do it.
That's
like
correct.
and then they learn, and then the conversation resonates. But it's like most of the time people just talk or they judge and they're over there
Yeah.
until they get in and they're with you. And then when the energy's there, it's like it speaks louder than any word
Yeah.
ever will. They're more receptive.
that's
for sure.
correct. Thank you guys. I really,
Yeah,
really appreciate you
thank
guys
you.
coming.
So nice to actually sit down and chat. I'm
also-
like, I
Yeah.
didn't know about some of these stories that you guys told. It was so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping it real with me today. So it's awesome having you. Lastly, can you guys share your handles to the community so they can see what you're working on and things that they can look at, important
Yeah.
events that you're doing. So
Well, my personal one's really boring, so it's just like me in my backyard.
That's
But-
the one we want.
that's the one.
That's the only one we're here for. Yeah.
These old dudes right here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh yes, my dog. Okay, a bajillion.
Your dog has a handle. Yeah.
she's got. But Pulse Studios Calgary is the Instagram for the studio, which is like where you can catch all the latest things that we're up to, which is like a bajillion different things. We're going in so many cool directions, but yeah, it's lots of things going on there. And then the Calgary Hip Hop and Street Dance Festival, which is myself and also a bunch of volunteers from the city that are just helping out with it. And hopefully, like you said, right, bringing communities together, bringing
Yeah.
people together, trying to really reach. So we're doing something with the high schools. We're doing something hopefully with all the different communities that are involved in all kind of aspects of street dance.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Thank you,
Amazing.
Tara.
Mine would be at Groovebox Inc. is the Instagram handle. I think we have a Facebook page. I think it's Groovebox Studio.
What's
I
Facebook?
don't know.
no,
Honestly,
wait.
I'm pretty sure that this is my knowledge with socials. I don't know. But anyways, you can find us on there. And yeah, Groovebox is all things within what we call Groovebox Collective. So that's the work we do in the public school system, as well as private training and the mentorship that I was talking about. And then things within the studio itself, competitive and training classes. We try to stay relevant so that kids can show their stories and their growth. And then, yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of events. So one thing we're trying to be committed to is just monthly jams and events. Some of them will be connected to certain pioneers that we're hoping to bring in and share with you, Tara, as well as Rico.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that because we've got lots of good names coming in, and that'll be everything from like history seminars to public workshops, jams, cipher, battles, and just having fun. We really want to bring the fun back every month at the Groovebox studio. If you can't be there in person, we'll try to create some live opportunities as well for people to just kind of be in their living room and dance with us, and just make it really fun. We want to get that whole like back barbecue vibe, dancing with your homies. That's kind of the thing we want to bring, is the fun back.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Can we just get the weather to change in
yeah,
Alberta?
right?
Yeah.
It's like have
Weather
it
is
more
crazy.
beachy.
We need a more beachy vibe.
We need a more like, the sun to just like be a bit hotter here. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rico.
Rico.
Keeping it
Thanks,
real. And thank you everybody for tuning in.
Hey,
Hey.
come on.